Have you ever tried to look at something familiar to you as if you've never seen it before? It isn't easy to do. It's like looking at your kids or grandkids as if you don't know them, judging their personality, character and demeanour through an unbiased pair of eyes. We all have a natural bias to the things we love. Actual impartial viewpoints are almost impossible because these biases impair our judgment even if we don't realise it. It's all happening subconsciously. Nostalgia has a similar effect on us. Despite all the moaning and groaning we do, when we walk up to those pits, you hear the bikes, you smell the castor oil, it all comes back like you've just come home. Most of us have been going to Speedway longer than our kids have been alive. Our love and nostalgia for the Speedway of our past hinders our ability to assess what we see accurately. It's a family affair, and the sport is interwoven with our personal lives profoundly and meaningfully. There are things we can see though that are undeniable. When you look at the pictures and videos from the glory days, the vast crowds and the electric atmosphere are abundant but sadly lacking on the terraces of the modern era. But for the rarest of occasions. The top stars would flock to the UK where world champions were made and moulded, a vital destination for those with the top prize in their sights. But alas, the new generation rarely gets a glimpse of the very best when in their prime on British soil. The variety of tracks was once wide and imperious, an ocean of choice. Now, a shallow pool. But if we can just get out of our own way, cast the net a little further, you wonder what we might find. The big fish, they are out there, with the right tools, the proper motivations, and a strong mentality. Just imagine what we could achieve. Maybe we can take that gamble and have a little faith in the next generation to lead us into the unknown. Our future could be something far greater than we ever imagined. If you haven't already, I recommend you watch The Future of British Speedway Part 1 before you watch this. The link is in the description below. There have been many suggestions on repairing the sport, some good, some not so much. These videos aren't meant as an ultimatum to the promoters of Speedway. We're talking about ideas and suggestions for what to do to turn our fortunes around. The idea is to get the creative juices flowing and promote positive discussions on what can be done for the sport's progress. We've seen cricket revolutionise the sport's following with the 100 series and 2020 cricket. We've seen ice hockey turn their fortunes around through the essential Matchday experience envisioned by Sheffield Steelers owner Tony Smith, pulling in average crowds of 7,000 per game. Speedway needs to change, but it doesn't need to start from scratch. Ice hockey and cricket are essentially the same game, but presented and managed in a different way. We need to call the shots when it comes to running and the usage of Speedway venues. Achieving this will require significant investment in property and facilities through purchasing stadiums and land, commercial lease options, or agreements to attain control of existing debt. The methodology will change from venue to venue, but ultimately the goal is to have Speedway in control. That's what it's all about. Control. To make this possible, British Speedway as a central business would need the ability to borrow and be capable of capital investment. To do this, Speedway will need private financial investment, significant sponsorship, and a consistent central income stream. How do we attract investors and commercial support into Speedway? The first thing we're going to look at is the matchday experience, what it consists of and what value it has for each demographic attending. You might be thinking this is pretty low on the list of priorities, but if we reverse engineer the process, it will give us a better footing to tackle some of the more pressing issues later. There are a few things I want to cover before I go on to the matchday experience itself. First thing is value. You often hear the analogy Speedway is £18 for 15 minutes of entertainment. Generally, people don't rank entertainment value by time in the real world. If they did, theme parks would never survive, and fans wouldn't flock to MotoGP to see 1/8 of a race. I've never known the public to choose a film at the cinema based purely on its length. People pay upwards of £20 per person just to see a collection of old rocks in a field. Is this value for money? That is the question. Ultimately, value is all in the perception, and it's totally subjective. It's not physically measurable. Something is worth what someone will pay for it. We need to give importance to the fans through the matchday experience. The product. I spoke in part 1 about the 1992 revolution of football and the Sky Sports era. The game of football was utterly unchanged on the pitch itself. The core product doesn't have to completely change. We've seen some good examples recently of how promoters can run Speedway unorthodoxly. Just take a trip to the Isle of Wight. It's an unorthodox experience of the same sport captured and shared in a different way. They've tailored the traditional formats into a customised version that works for the club's profit and loss model. It's an amazing experience of Speedway. It's the same sport and it works. Speedway is a fantastic spectacle. We need to let the world know why. Presentation and the matchday experience. We need to make the matchday experience suitable for all that attend. This means making sure 3-year-olds, 10-year-olds and 18-year-olds are entertained and take value from the experience. Likewise, we want casual adults attending to enjoy the experience alongside the hardcore fan base we've already got. Entertainment value is essential and professionalism is vital. The best way to attack this is to view Speedway through the eyes of a new attendee. When I talk about this stuff, try to imagine you are new to the sport and don't know anything about it or how it works. The 1970s and 80s are long gone, and 16-year-olds really won't care what the sport was like 40 years ago. We are keeping the house's structure. It just needs a new kitchen, new bathroom, some fresh carpets and a lick of paint. Professional presentation. Let's make Speedway look professional. Let's get a sponsor for all the track staff at all tracks. Get them kitted out in the same gear supplied by the British Speedway League with a consistent logo on the back. Have a few symbols on the arms and the front, the club badges and insignias and principal sponsors, etc. Ultimately, they just need to look the part. We need to make sure everybody associated with running the match is kitted out with consistent colours and can be easily identified as staff. We also need to ensure that the riders and their mechanics are in the club's colours. For some reason, riders' mechanics get overlooked when it comes to the dress code. You all know what the Premier League football badge looks like. We want a unified brand for people to get familiar with outside of the sport. The British Speedway League logo needs to be everywhere. Have the track staff march onto the track before the match as they did in the 70s and 80s. The track staff, led with starting marshals, the mascots, the paramedics, followed by the riders. Have the mechanics walking alongside. Everyone nicely kitted out and looking the part. Every track needs a Len Silver type banging the drum and making sure everyone takes it seriously. This stuff can seem trivial, but it makes a big difference to the overall feel of the experience. I've seen proper pre-match parades done now and again, but it's very inconsistent from track to track. When I'm asked where would I take a fan to watch Speedway, I always say Peterborough, Leicester or Wolverhampton. Now I would say Bellevue, Glasgow and Scunthorpe as well, but I don't really live close to any of those tracks. I say Peterborough because it's reasonably near to me and the racing is ordinarily pretty good. You've got a good vantage point from the grandstand and it's just a great feel for the sport as a whole. Leicester, you can get really close to the action and the noise is incredible, especially on that back straight. It's It's a great place to take friends who have young kids as well because they run on Saturday nights. Wolverhampton isn't exactly close to me, however I would take any new punter there simply because they know how to put on a show. The music is exciting, it G's up the fans, and they have a secret weapon. Ian Jones, otherwise known as Porky. The centre green presentation is probably the most underestimated part of the Speedway experience. That charismatic individual who can keep the fans engaged when the tractors come out or when there are delays because of back-to-back rides. Ian Jones is always making the action seem that little bit more energetic. When the crowd's heads drop, he picks them up. He is Mr. Wolverhampton and the public love him for it. Every track needs its entertainer. Peterborough has Craig Soule, who's not quite as energetic, but he's very knowledgeable and always interviews the riders really well and just comes across professional.
Well, skipper Scotty Nichols joining us now on the mic, and Scott, it seems it took just a few races for the Panthers to get into full gear, but now you really are turning the screw.
Peterborough and Kings Lynn also have Edwin Overland giving the race results. I really like Edwin because he makes brief and witty comments on the action whilst delivering the official results.
Coming through from almost nowhere. Where did he come from? Second in red, Michael Pontoft, and third in blue, Craig Cook.
Edwin's been an announcer for longer than I've been alive, and it does show in his presentation and how he handles the match. I won't go around every track, but you get the idea. Combining all the elements from different tracks can create the optimum Speedway experience. As an example, you've got Edwin in the box with the official verdict, Ian Jones on the centre green keeping the crowd engaged with the team mascots, Craig Soule in the pits getting the riders and managers' viewpoints in live interviews, and a DJ in the box keeping the music flowing during the breaks. We also need the British Speedway League providing prepped stat cards for the presenters and announcers during the matches. Have games they can play during the intervals with the fans, give away t-shirts, baseball caps, bags of Haribo for the kids. We're not giving away freebies for freebies' sake here. We want people wearing t-shirts, we want them wearing the baseball caps, creating mind space and conversation starters about Speedway outside of our four walls. You don't have to give away premium race shirts, basic stuff will do fine, but people love a freebie at the end of the day, and it gives that little bit more value. The British Speedway League needs the ability to bring in luxuries like big screens and whatnot in the future. We could do with maybe purchasing big screens that transport between tracks, or even PA systems if the track's own aren't suitable at the moment. Ideas like this will be easy to execute if we have a central base of operations, but I'll come to that in a later video. Entertainment value. Let's have up-to-date music playing in the stadiums, interlaced with the excellent old sing-alongs and classics that the crowd can connect with. Poole Speedway have brought in a DJ to keep the music flowing. When I took my family to Poole, the one thing my wife told their family and friends the next day was that they played Sweet Caroline during the interval and everyone was singing along. It might seem inconsequential to some, but it does add value to that experience. Have a bike decked out in team's colours at the turnstiles for people to take photos with. We then want to create a buzz on social media around the track. You could put a blown up engine in the bike, it doesn't really matter, as long as the rolling chassis looks the part. If you've got injured riders, have them as a photo or autograph opportunity with the bikes in their race suits kitted out. Get people posting pictures of themselves on social media, posing and with the riders on the bike. When I got married in 2015, I made a stand that locked the bike in place, stopping it from falling over and making it safe for youngsters, and I had it on display for all to see. People loved it and they posted pictures of themselves on the bike. It was a great talking point, and significantly, it was a bit of free publicity for Speedway. Simple, but hugely effective, and something that can be rolled out at every track with minimal cost. I know I'm banging on, but large organisations like the WWE learned the hard way that small investments can make significant impacts. Crowd numbers fell considerably when the American wrestling giant stripped back things like fireworks from the product. It suddenly didn't feel like the spectacle it was before, and people started to change the channel. At the end of races, get the riders to do a lap of honour. The number of times I've been to a track and you can feel the disappointment, especially amongst the younger audience, when a rider doesn't come round to acknowledge the supporters. Is it that big of an ask for the riders who win races to commit to an extra slow lap around the track? especially the home riders. It's an easy fix, it doesn't cost a thing, and it increases the audience connection with the riders. The crossovers with local community groups, reach out to choirs, dance groups, biker groups, get them to perform during breaks. The idea here is not just to give value to the new attendees of Speedway, but to generate additional attendance through the people performing and their network of friends and family. The choir or dancers might bring their families to watch, they can watch the Speedway action and they might potentially get hooked. Have a couple of fireworks at the end of the meeting if the venue allows it. You don't need to spend thousands. Get a bulk deal on some firework cakes from places like Epic in Sheffield. 30 to 40 seconds of fireworks as the meeting draws to a close, and it costs peanuts. Timing. Now I'm going to show you a clip from some Speedway at British Speedway in Australia. It takes about 1 minute and 23 seconds from the end of Heat 1 to the start of Heat 2. The same thing happens during amateur or non-league speedway. The riders go off the track, the next lot are on and they are ready to go. My point is, we need to get on with it. The one thing people can't be at any point during the match is bored. Start enforcing the 4-minute maximum time between race rule and get the 2-minute timer going as soon as the last riders leave the circuit. If needs be, bring in the 1 minute back to the start rule the FIM have enforced in the GPs for restarts. We want the match to be fast moving and flowing, with no unnecessary delays. Keep the action flowing where possible. Tell riders not to p-ball about at the start. If they are ready, let's get on with it. At no point during the match should supporters be standing there staring at an empty infield with nothing happening. Boredom is the ultimate killer in entertainment. Integrate the second halves into the primary match programme. If you've got a rider with 2 on the trot causing a slight delay or rider replacement in operation, use the youth races to keep the meeting flowing. This also gives the youth riders a taste of riding in a professional setting, with plenty of time between races. There is nothing worse than having all 3 of your rides at the end of the meeting back to back with barely any time to recover. By the 3rd ride, the youngsters are knackered and they just don't learn anything. If the TV cameras are there and you're on an ad break, again, that's the time to send the youth riders out for a couple of laps. The entertainment doesn't have to grind to a halt for everybody in attendance. Engagement with the match. One of Speedway's most significant crimes is failing to adapt to the digital age. To this day, the product hasn't embraced any digital support at all. I'm not really sure why. We need to make sure the new punters we're bringing in understand what's going on and can easily engage with the match. I'm not suggesting that we scrap the traditional Matchday program, far from it. The program board is the ultimate Speedway fan accessory. I personally love buying a program from every match that I attend, filling it in and keeping them all nicely tucked away in my office. My dad collected a program from every match he attended, dating back to the early 60s. It was an integral part of the Matchday experience, but we need an alternative for the younger audience who might like to socialise while the action is happening. We're generating an engaged atmosphere that brings the fans back and encourages repeat sales. When we take friends or family to Speedway, we can talk to them through what's happening and explain everything, but what happens if you're turning up and you've never been before and you don't know anybody that has? Will the newly acquired customer purchase a program? In my experience, the answer is often no, creating an instant disconnect from the proceedings. The score might be super close, but they don't know that. Their connection with the match is solely reliant on the track action. Here's a suggestion on what to do. Create a British Speedway League Matchday app. The sole purpose of this app is to guide someone through the match if they've never been before. You could supply a QR code at the turnstiles for people to scan. They can either download the app or observe the match through their mobile browser. Once the app or web page is loaded, they enter the match number, which will bring up the live scorecard for the day. Slight digression here, but how is it there's still no official live updates for Speedway matches? If you want race by race updates, you have to rely on third-party websites. Now don't get me wrong, I think the text update service is fantastic. I've always found it strange there's no official option for this. Anyway, the Matchday program app will bring up some options. For example, let's say, I've never been to Speedway before, I've been, but not recently, I'm a seasoned fan. If you click option 1, you'll get brought to a screen welcoming you to Speedway. There's a couple of links to official YouTube videos, a video introducing you to the sport, another to explain the rules, maybe a frequently asked questions video. The basics are explained in as brief and straightforward terms as possible, or you can read the tutorial presented on the screen if you don't want to sit through and watch videos. Then you're brought to the race card. If you click option 2, you'll get a similar screen to option 1, but with some alternative videos discussing how Speedway is currently set up and the current scoring system. Option 3 will take you straight through to the race card. Now, the race card is a live update digital tracker of the match. No need to fill it in, the app will do that for you. How we do this, there's a variety of ways. The Matchday referee at Speedway already fills in a digital race card as the official record for the match. Either give them the software on current tablets or laptops, issue them one specifically for this task, it doesn't really matter. The referee will fill this out through the meeting, which feeds into the app and gives the audience live results as they progress. Alternatively, issue each club with a tablet. You could have the announcer or timekeeper fill it out, it doesn't really matter as long as someone is filling in the updates, and then you have an official record of the results as it progresses. I must stress that this system isn't designed to replace the traditional program. It's to help engage with the younger audience who might not have the patience to sit, learn the rules and fill out a pen and paper scorecard. The app can also carry a digital version of the scorecard which can be filled in manually if the punter desires. The idea here is to give an easy way to find out what's going on whilst socialising simultaneously, providing a gradual route for a potential returning fan to try filling out a program next time they attend. If you weren't paying attention for a few minutes, you missed a race result, you can scroll down to the update in the app and the live score, race result and lineup will correct for you. This tool can also be helpful for people filling in their program. If you missed a race because you were in the toilet or the winning time wasn't clear on the tannoy, just check the digital program. Don't get me wrong, I know you could just ask the person next to you, but it's providing options for people. This service could also include the race sponsors' logos, give that little bit more value to the sports backers. People who aren't attending might be able to see the results and give the sponsors that little bit more exposure. You could deliver the rules to punters stealthily, have little caution boxes that explain what's going on. You don't have to click on them if you don't want to, but they are there if you need them. It's an easy way for the fans to look at the rules and understand what's going on. You don't have to grind everything to a halt to find out what's happening or look at the action confused as to why a rider might be coming out for repeated rides. When it comes to the program, yes, it will detract slightly from the sales, but it will encourage fans to engage with what's going on during the match and build that connection with the sport. The digital experience can also deliver more to the fans on the terraces and those at home by offering up stats on the match, follow-up information on when the racing is concluded, there could be links to where the official highlights will be after the match, and it helps with the sales funnel later on to encourage repeat business. Keeping it with the kids. We need to ensure kids remember their experience at Speedway. Make sure every match has a home and away mascot present for the very young attendees. The mascot should be at the turnstiles before the matches. They're in the crowd during the breaks, after the meeting, giving the kids small bags of Haribo when they come in through the turnstiles or at the intervals. Have a small box of dress-up items like kids' crash helmets and race jackets next to the display bikes for their photos. Kids love this stuff. If you charge younger kids, make sure they get value directed towards their age group. Kids could be given cardboard race cars with free pencils and crayons, like the ones I used to have at Sheffield Speedway, with some kids' activities on the reverse with colouring in, connect the dots, a word search, all that type of stuff. You can buy mini packs of pencils for like 15p per pack plus the cost of a cardboard race card. We're not breaking the bank here. There's a reason places like restaurants do this sort of thing, because it works. Let's get kids involved in the event. The Isle of Wight has the kids come onto the track and run around during the interval. What a fantastic idea, and how much does that actually cost? Yes, that's right, nothing. How many of those kids will tell their schoolmates that they ran around a Speedway track the next day? Every time someone talks about Speedway outside of Speedway, it creates mind space. It's subtle, but it all feeds back into making people aware of the sport. Post-match interaction. Post-match briefs with a standardised format. Interviews with managers, captains, the riders related to specific incidents, such as big crashes and controversial exclusions on match-winning rides. The aim here is to build a connection and rapport between the fans and the riders and promote Speedway's professional image. Some clubs are ahead of the game and already do some amazing digital content, but like many things, it's just so inconsistent across the piece. This leads me nicely onto continuing the matchday experience past Heat 15. Something I noticed about Speedway is the sales funnel is a bit weak. Once the match is finished, you leave the stadium and your Speedway experience is done. It doesn't have to be the case. Speedway needs to consider its customer retention model, as paying for new customers is expensive. There's a marketing cost implication for every new member of the public we bring through the door, but keeping customers you've already got is far more cost effective. Now, I'm skipping ahead slightly as I haven't explained my thoughts on a British Speedway League membership scheme. In short, it's a single membership hub for Speedway fans to join and gain access to British Speedway in a more focused way. Fans can sign up and get access to match tickets. You could introduce a reward scheme to encourage referral marketing and repeat attendance at home and away matches. You can reduce the risk to fans with potential rain-offs by offering credits to other matches. The ticket system can work well for fans of specific clubs or general supporters looking to whet their Speedway appetite. This will work especially well for retaining fans if the worst should happen and the club that they were supporting was to fold or disappear. We have a strong core fan base, but we just don't utilise it. The system here doesn't have to replace individual clubs' platforms outright. It almost acts like an affiliate website. The same applies to clubs and rider merchandise. We could sell it all through the official membership scheme as an alternative and not as a replacement for the club's own arrangements. This is basically a way of selling the merchandise and taking a cut for the British Speedway League as a central entity. The digital matchday program, email marketing and online merchandise acts as a sales funnel for British Speedway. Every time we get a new sale through the door, we need to create a follow-up experience for that customer. Once they get home, they can read the match report, watch the highlights on YouTube for a few days, download a Speedway game if they feel like it. If they want to eat, sleep and drink Speedway, we need to provide the tools for them to do that. Part of the reason sports like football have such a tight grip on the younger audience is that they can immerse themselves in the sport through the digital experience. It can be challenging to know where to start if someone wants to be more absorbed into Speedway. Even something as simple as a Speedway game. They are out there, they're just not that easy to find. When someone goes onto YouTube after the match and types, for example, Peterborough Panthers, we want the official highlights and interviews to be the first thing that they're seeing, not random public videos. It just makes Speedway look that more professional and organised. The possibilities for a single membership platform are endless for British Speedway. You could integrate matchday streaming, a Speedway Fantasy League, track staff benefits, youth academy programs, fundraising activities for the Speedway Benevolent Fund. It goes on and on and on. Once this system is in place, it will give the sport more clout when negotiating with sponsors. We need to start looking at things like how the matches are recorded, the quality of the videoing, how many camera angles there are, all that type of stuff. Speedway will suddenly look like a professional sport to onlookers from the outside, and it will provide fans with an easy way to recommend new fans to the sport. Just recently, British Speedway has updated its website, and oh my word, look how good it looks now compared to before. What a great place to refer people. This is what Speedway is. So this is quite a broad subject and it could go on for quite a while longer, but I'll cut it short for now. When we talk about mitigating risk, there are two main areas: medical cover and the track circuits themselves. Medical cover has always been a problem in Speedway. I attended 20 professional matches in 2021 and encountered 4 lengthy delays due to crashes requiring medical attention. That's a 20% chance of a 1 hour delay, which is far too high. So, how do we reduce the risk of delays? I might have a solution. The Premiership has 66 matches and the Championship 116, including the playoffs. That's 182 professional league matches, discounting the National League. Now, I did all the work on the numbers and quotes for this section before the new competitions were announced, so I've not included them. I got the quotes from 3 different suppliers for medical cover to meet the needs of a 4-hour professional standard motorsports event with an average public attendance of 2,000 people. I had worked out the quote at £390 for the ambulance crew as it's currently set up in Speedway. 182 matches have an annual cost of £70,980 all in, or £4,176 per club if you exclude the playoffs. Why not book an ambulance car with a professional medical team alongside the main ambulance? This allows either medical team to assess injuries when they occur. Either the main ambulance or medical car can take the rider to hospital based on their injury assessment. This means the action can resume with the second medical crew in position whilst the injured party is being sorted out. This system worked well when I was involved in motocross, so I'm confident it would be effective for Speedway. How much would it cost, I hear you ask? £583 for one ambulance and an ambulance car with a medical crew. The annual cost would be £106,106 or £6,242 per club. That's an increase across the piece of £35,126 on medical cover. Sounds like a lot of money, right? Well, let me break that down. As an example, let's say we take responsibility for medical cover away from individual clubs and supply it as part of the British Speedway League membership for league matches. The entire league would need to commit to bringing in an additional 1,952 people through the turnstiles to pay for the dual medical cover option. That's a commitment of 115 extra admissions at each club for the entire league campaign, based on £18 average admission price across the board. Is British Speedway in a position where we can't commit to bringing 120 extra customers at every club through the entire season, especially for something that will undoubtedly improve the product for the paying public? It's worth noting that I've been generously pessimistic in my calculations, as I've got a verbal agreement of 6% reduction or a discount for a national ambulance cover contract based on 200 matches, with the medical crew's logo featuring at least once on the advertising hoardings at each track. That's a saving of £6,996 for cover across the board. This setup won't eliminate the risk of delays. There is always the potential for a severe crash with potentially life-changing or life-threatening injuries. The rider's safety must remain paramount with whatever medical arrangement we provide. You also must consider the mental well-being of the riders after seeing horrific crashes. Are they in the right state of mind to continue? The same applies to the track staff and, of course, the supporters. All that said, we are hugely mitigating the risk of delays, and that's a monumental step in the right direction. The other big factor that often causes issues is the racetrack itself, but I'll save that for another time as it's a fairly complex subject and this video is already long enough. Closing thoughts. What are our priorities when a Speedway match runs? Is it the paying public? It should be, but it often doesn't come across that way. The sad reality is that Speedway has a reputation for going wrong. When you take someone to Speedway, are you worried you'll take them to a duck fixture? Will there be a lengthy delay due to injury, poorly prepared track, lousy weather, rider replacement for both teams causing consistent additional time? None of these are new problems, yet they are still consistently causing issues today. How often are we asking our paying public to stand around and wait? Is it for 10 minutes? Is it for 25 minutes? Time has a compounding effect. Sometimes 1 minute can feel like an hour, other times 1 hour can feel like a minute. If the sport is to succeed, the wider public needs to be confident they can attend and enjoy the experience. The sport's reputation is as good as its weakest track or performance. What is the sport's target demographic? Is Speedway a family sport? What does that actually mean? If we're talking about 2 adults with young children, Monday or Wednesday nights will cut your audience significantly unless it's a school holiday. There's nothing wrong with that, providing the marketing and attendance expectation reflects that. You could say family is a broader term for fans passing the bug down from generation to generation. There's nothing wrong with Speedway being more suitable for older ages, providing that that audience is expanding. How does the modern match appeal to businesses looking for nights out? hotel guests, sixth form aged young adults and college students, bike enthusiasts or biker groups? What tools are there for Speedway fans to expand the fan base through referrals? How are we rewarding the loyal supporters we have now, keeping their mindset positive towards the sport they love? Can a broader audience feel part of the sport and connect with the Speedway racing experience on an emotional level? We often talk about the number of races, cost of admission, the level of entertainment, but we rarely talk about how people become part of Speedway more deeply. What is it that keeps us coming back and caring about the sport in a personal way? What is it that fuels that burning desire to want to see Speedway succeed? We often forget what happened on a night out or who we were with, but we never forget how it made us feel. Thank you for watching. In the next video I'll be talking about a slightly lighter topic, and that is the 2021 Premiership Playoffs and what made them so good. In the following video of this series I'll be talking about Speedway's media exposure, marketing strategy, more details around the membership scheme and Speedway's governance system, how we can build on the foundation for the strong matchday experience to ensure the future of the sport is secure. So what do you think of the ideas in this video? Do you think these could work? Do you think they would actually help? What other ideas have you got to make the matchday experience better for the paying public? Please comment below and I'll pin the best idea to the top. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.